It is WrestleMania season. Last year at WrestleMania 40, we saw Cody Rhodes finish his story. But the thing about Mania is that it is nothing but moments.
I'd like to welcome everyone here at the Silverdome to WrestleMania 30.
Huge signature moments that really define wrestling and fandom as a whole. Tim, I don't know about you, but what are some of your favorite WrestleMania moments?
Well, Hogan slamming Andre. There's Bret Hart putting Austin in the sharpshooter and him bleeding relentlessly.
A Hall of Fame moment now, apparently, allegedly.
And of course, there's Daniel Bryan winning the world title at WrestleMania 30.
Yes, yes, yes. Of course, WrestleMania is full of lots of lowlights, lots of filler as well. And those are the moments you don't necessarily remember, but that's the thing about WrestleMania. It's not one signature moment, it's not a few different matches. It is a 3 to 8 hour schmaz in some years.
So instead of one 8-hour schmaz, you get 2 days of 4-hour schmazes.
Well, depending on how those Las Vegas ticket sales go. The thing about WrestleMania, though, is there is no universal, see what I did there, agreement on which one is the best. However, I think one thing we can all agree upon is that there are certainly underappreciated manias, and that is what we're talking about today here on Special Guest Referee. It is our most underappreciated WrestleManias.
These aren't the best WrestleManias. These aren't our favorite WrestleManias. These are the underappreciated WrestleManias. So I'm going to have you start, and I'm going to do it with another caveat is that I don't know what he's going to say, and he doesn't know what I'm going to say. So this should be really fun. Hopefully we'll both do the same.
Well, I know I can pretty much guarantee you the start of my underappreciated WrestleManias will not be on your list. That's because I'm going with WrestleMania 4. Look, I can already hear some of you out there saying it's too long, the matches are too short, it's a lot of filler. And yeah, sure, maybe you're right. And yes, having a tournament with 4 DQ finishes and a draw is pretty stupid. Also, look, why didn't Savage pin One Man Gang in the semifinals? Who are you protecting there? Look, I hear you groaning. However, when you zoom out and look at the big picture of WrestleMania 4, I think there is something there we all need to start appreciating. The story here on one night is super enjoyable. If you were buying this pay-per-view, this WrestleMania going in, and you didn't know how the event was going to play out, it would be a surprise. There's just a lot of drama, a lot of intrigue, and that played out through the course of the entire event. Unlike most WrestleManias where you just get one story ending, one story ending, one story ending, for WrestleMania 4, you got an entire story to play out across one pay-per-view. And for all the crap about the extra long run time or the number of matches, it is important to remember we're talking about 1988. That kind of thing is a huge selling point, especially since WWF was asking for $24.95 for the pay-per-view, or worse yet, some nearly $40 for the VHS. If you're asking those prices, you better be giving fans something.
You get 2 VHSs.
And if you're renting those 2 VHSs, make sure you rewind them both, or else you're looking at double the fees.
That's true.
We don't appreciate this in 2025 because we have so many entertainment options at our disposal. We don't want quantity, we want quality, and we want it right now, for being completely honest. However, late 80s, many people don't have cable. No one had the internet, so 4 hours worth of something was kind of a sweet deal. And for that sweet deal to tell the tale of Randy Savage's ascension to becoming WWF World Champion and all the other subplots in that evening, it was really quite enjoyable and an event we just don't appreciate nearly enough. Unlike some of the other cards, which are just a collection of matches, admittedly a great collection of matches, this WrestleMania tells a story across one night. However, since most fans of the present day weren't there watching it with fresh eyes live back in 1988, WrestleMania 4 just doesn't get the credit or the appreciation it deserves. But you know what, Tim? I've laid my first card down on the table. Tell us, what is your first underappreciated WrestleMania?
Well, I'm going to kind of go in that same direction because it's a Randy Savage WrestleMania, and it's WrestleMania 7. I feel like this is Randy Savage's WrestleMania because it's him versus Warrior. It's like a masterpiece. I tell everyone, if this is a match you haven't seen before, then you should stop this. Well, maybe wait until this video is over. Then go look up Warrior vs. Savage because the whole thing's amazing. The whole lead up to it, they show Liz there and you're like, oh man, Liz is here. We haven't seen Liz in like a year. and then she comes out at the end, her and Savage. It's beautiful. It's great. Plus, this Mania also has what I think all Manias should have, and that is an intermission. Let's have a 10-minute intermission where we just throw out everyone to come on stage and everyone does their promos and everyone wastes a little time, and then we can all kind of go to the bathroom, because that's really what I'm missing in some of these newer pay-per-views. I cannot sit through 4 straight hours. I have to get up, I have to go to the bathroom. WWE is a little bit better now, where they have a lot of the they have commercials now and they have videos in between the matches, so I guess that's pretty good. But I would not mind a 10-minute intermission, because this one really was great. Okay, so I know there were a lot of bad matches at WrestleMania 7, especially that Demolition versus Tenryu and Koji Katao match. I know that wasn't very good, but again, that's another bathroom break for you. There were some really good matches, though. I mean, if you don't like that blindfold match, I don't know what to tell you. It's a fun match. Sitting there watching Rick Martel, Jake the Snake just walk around the ring aimlessly, pointing at people, pointing at the audience. That's a really fun match. And yeah, the world title match, I mean, it is what it is with Hogan and Slaughter. You knew it was going to happen. It probably should have happened weeks before that, but that's a different story. And everything that goes along with WrestleMania 7 is just really funny. We're all still talking about it to this day. Like, why wasn't it at the LA Memorial Coliseum instead of across the street at the arena? Well, I'm pretty sure it was because they couldn't sell 80,000 tickets. That is why it was at the LA Sports Arena instead of the LA Coliseum. But anyway, I love WrestleMania 7. I just think it's an underappreciated WrestleMania because there are a lot of really good matches, and the way it is put together is really good. There might be a boring match, but then you'll get a really good one after that. So it's kind of nicely put together where you can just sit there, get through the show, get to the end, and you're not waiting for it to be over like some future WrestleManias.
Look, here's the deal. I loved Iraq sympathizer Sergeant Slaughter. Like, I thought it was just the bee's knees. And, quite frankly, props to Sergeant Slaughter for not only making becoming an Iraqi sympathizer cool, but also for making stolen valor a cool thing.
If that's what you think it is, fine. But what's your next Mania?
So speaking of like weird takes, I'm going to go off the deep end here with my next underappreciated WrestleMania. I'm going with WrestleMania 36. Look, this is admittedly a very weird event, but given all of the circumstances, much of which was out of WWE's control, I do think they deserve a lot of credit for firstly giving us a WrestleMania in 2020 and delivering something that I found to be extremely entertaining. Even without a crowd, in one of the most boring, self-indulgent matches I have ever seen in my life as a wrestling fan, the Edge Randy Orton last man standing match, I do feel WrestleMania 36 delivered. I prefer to think about WrestleMania 36 like this. We did get some incredible matches, and maybe not technical classics by any means, but things that were still entertaining at a time when there was basically nothing else on anyway. I mean, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, a match that delivered. Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, I think, had an outstanding championship match, but most important of all, Undertaker got a fitting send-off for his career. A send-off that wouldn't have been possible had he been asked to have a regular wrestling match inside a WWE ring at the time. Then there was the Firefly Funhouse match, a contest that did more for John Cena's character in 13 minutes than the previous 13 years of his entire WWE career.
It was legit a senior thesis on John Cena's career, and I hope Bray Wyatt got an A on his report.
Speaking of getting A's, I think we have to give an A for Drew McIntyre as well. Look, that match with what's his face? Sorry, I mean name redacted due to an ongoing lawsuit involving a certain giver of Bloomingdale's gift cards. Anyway, as it relates to WrestleMania 36, what I see from this event is a lot of creativity. Creativity that we weren't necessarily getting from WWE during this period in the company's history. I mean, look at the 5 or so WrestleManias leading up to this. They were all paint by the numbers events. So, what WrestleMania 36 did that doesn't get appreciated nearly enough is just how they pulled off a feat in very trying circumstances, but managed to, in many ways, break out of a rut that they had been in for years leading up to it. I comprehend why WrestleMania 36 is not everyone's cup of tea. The lack of crowds was a buzzkill, but there was nothing to be done about it. It is what it is, as the kids say. However, for me, and I think for a lot of people, there's a lot there to appreciate, except for that last man standing match between Edge and Randy Orton. 36 minutes of two dudes choking each other across the performance. And you're like, what are we even doing?
Yeah, it's all right. I'll take it from here. Randy Orton, Edge, you get in the corner. You stay there for 5 minutes. Timeout for you. All right, let me go to my next underappreciated WrestleMania. I'm going back again. This is going to be another kind of old one for you kids. WrestleMania 8. Another underappreciated WrestleMania. So many good matches there, too. There were a lot of stinkers in between. So you had Roddy Piper versus Bret Hart. Bret Hart going into this WrestleMania wasn't Bret Hart yet, the guy that we all know and love, or a lot of people, I guess, all know and love. He was a great, great wrestler, great tag guy. He had the IC belt for a little bit leading up to this, but then he didn't really have it going in. So the match versus Roddy Piper made him. You had Jake the Snake Roberts versus Undertaker. Again, Undertaker. Awesome. He was world champion already, but he wasn't like the top-notch guy yet. He would become the top-notch guy pretty soon after this. Obviously, he was coming in with everyone loving The Undertaker going into WrestleMania 8, which is super weird that we would all love an undead zombie guy battling a guy who carries around a snake, but that's how we were in 1992. And then if you have Ric Flair and you have Randy Savage, one of the best matches in WrestleMania history. It's amazing. And of course, you have Ric Flair bleeding himself, because it wouldn't be an awesome Ric Flair match without him making himself bleed on camera, which you can also see in that match as well. He's on the floor just hacking away at his own forehead. So you got to love those matches. So many stinkers at this Mania. You had, of course, the main event that was a big stinker. Sid versus Hogan. I think we all knew going in that this was going to be a bad match. And when it happened, it was pretty bad. And then the confusing ending where you have a confusing man running down the aisle wearing white face paint. Yeah, that's Papa Shango, by the way. No one knew who that was coming down the aisle. So another reason why this should be an underappreciated WrestleMania, because of all the random surprises. And then a Warrior coming out. It was just a really fun Mania. One of my most underappreciated ones, just because everyone seems to always focus on Hogan and Sid. And yes, that was bad, but there were a lot of really good matches underneath that we should all be talking about. That's why I think WrestleMania 8 is a very
confusing Papa Shango-esque run-in. You didn't see it coming. Oh my God, what a swerve. Viewer, are you confused? That was all of us.
Yeah, and you know what? Since you did the run-in, why don't you just do the next one?
I guess I will take it from here. Much like that feud that would soon be between Ultimate Warrior and Papa Shango, WrestleMania 19 had its fair share of confusing moments. That entire undercard was just a real head scratcher. The thing is, as blah as that undercard was, I actually kind of prefer that New Japan style where you just shove a bunch of junk that doesn't last too long, that no one's going to remember anyway, early on. And then when that fifth or sixth match hits, it's steak and potatoes time. It's time for the action. It's time for the real show to begin. And those last 5 matches at WrestleMania 19, I think are as good as any 5 you'll see at any WrestleMania. Now, let's be honest. The ending to Triple H and Booker T sucked, and it sucked old world style. And in hindsight, I don't exactly love seeing Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan in a street fight. Another common complaint is that The Undertaker's appearance wasn't that memorable, but I mean, not everything in the streak was going to be a home run. Yet, I do think it did give us one of Undertaker's more memorable moments, at least as the American Badass, when he came out to Limp Bizkit. However, when you look at the big picture when it comes to WrestleMania 19, for me, is sort of a winning template. It has everything you would expect. There's some great wrestling, some great matches. Like I said, those final 5 matches are all epic in their own unique way, apart from like the last 2 minutes of Booker T Triple H. Then there are some shenanigans. You get some weird filler, and that's par for the course of WrestleMania. Every WrestleMania is going to have something you don't like. You have to accept that going in. Not everything is going to be for you, but as a wrestling fan, 19 great moments, great action. For the casual, I'm sure that some weirdo out there got off on some of the weirdo stuff that no one really understood apart from Vince McMahon. Finally, there's the venue. Safeco Field, today known as T-Mobile Park, is one of the most iconic WrestleMania venues. It's just such a sight to behold, and that sort of backdrop really added to the great moments that happened during WrestleMania 19, moments that make WrestleMania WrestleMania. When it comes to WrestleManias, though, 19, that's my way. And Tim, I suppose for your next underappreciated WrestleMania, what's going to be your way?
Well, I'm pretty sure Limp Bizkit wanted to be at this WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania 2000. That's an underappreciated WrestleMania to me. It might not have had any singles matches on it, but it was never boring, this card at all. So you had the Hardcore Invitational, which was like a dumpster on fire being pushed down a hill or watching a bunch of drunks at a bar. It was a lot of fun, though, but it was absolute chaos. And then there was the triple threat match with Angle, Jericho, and Name Redacted. It was a great match as well, and it helped to make Angle into being a world champion, which he would become later in the year. Jericho got propped up a little bit more, as did Name Redacted. But the world title match is something that is always questioned just because it obviously should have been Triple H versus The Rock, but then we had to push in all the McMahons, so we had to have a McMahon in every corner because Vince loves his family, we all know.
And Vince, who was eating something, took his knife and handed it to Shane. And he says, right there.
The match that we really all remember from this card is the three-way ladder match. I think we all know where we were when we saw Jeff Hardy jump off the ladder. I know that's only like the 17th time he did that year, but still, it was magical, and they have about 8 camera shots for it, so it was great to watch. That's a great match you want to see. So even though WrestleMania 2000 only has one singles match to speak of, it is never boring, and it's an underappreciated WrestleMania.
Speaking of WrestleManias that get considered boring, my next underappreciated one I feel is often mislabeled as boring. But when you go back and watch it, or even if you remember it from watching it at the time, this WrestleMania was anything but boring. My final underappreciated WrestleMania is WrestleMania 10.
Ooh, that's mine too.
Oh, did you just crime time me right now?
Those people stole my wallet.
Suspense, drama, unpredictability. To me, WrestleMania 10 had it all. Now, look, I can already hear some of you viewers out there saying it's just a 2-match show. There's too much filler, so on and so forth. Here's the deal. What WrestleMania isn't filler? Like, every WrestleMania has a ton of filler. You show me the WrestleMania that is top to bottom a stacked card always.
Cy Sperling, Hair Club for Men.
Cy Sperling. All right.
Seriously, though, that bit with the Hair Club for Men guy and Howard Finkel, that is just one of those jokes only Vince McMahon thought was funny. The thing, though, about WrestleMania 10, when you look at all of the filler, it's almost in the so bad it's still entertaining category. Now, around this time in WWF, if a woman was involved in a match, well, chances are it was going to be filler.
And why not throw a little person in there as well?
Yeah, and yeah, just a doink and a dink and a Luna and a bam, and there you go. You have a smorgasbord of a intergender tag team match.
And then you have Randy Savage and Crush in a very convoluted Falls Count Anywhere match where you had to pin him and then get back to the ring within 30 seconds, which seemed pretty easy to do since all the pinfalls happened right outside the ring. And then he had to tie him up in some rigging that was somehow found underneath Madison Square Garden. I didn't know they had rigging underneath Madison Square Garden. That's something new.
Speaking of rigging, that Yokozuna Lex Luger match was definitely rigged. No offense to the soon-to-be Hall of Famer in Luger, but there ain't no way in hell he was winning that. Of course, the Yokozuna victory led to the main event, the championship match between Bret Hart and the Japanese sumo champion? Question mark. So a lot of complaints as it relates to the main event are about the finish. It wasn't a good finish. It looked kind of botchy. And honestly, I think psychologically, just even from using a basic logic standpoint, the finish to Bret Hart and Yokozuna makes a ton of sense. We live in an era where all fans want to do is complain about finisher fest endings and how endings don't make any sense, how no one sells, how nothing is logically sound. Yet the way Bret Hart picked up the victory here probably made more sense out of any other possible ending.
Plus, he wasn't going to get Yokozuna in a sharpshooter at that point of the night.
No, they had to go home somehow, and a finisher, it wasn't it, boss. However, what makes WrestleMania 10 so underappreciated is how different it was when compared to the first 9 Manias that came before it. Seriously, go back to WrestleMania 9 1 year earlier. We were getting near 20-minute bouts featuring Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake tagging up against Money Inc. What we saw, the matches on the WrestleMania 10 card, there are probably more good matches on it than could be found in the first 9 Manias combined.
Yeah, at least that first match and the ladder match are better than the previous 9 WrestleManias combined. Heck, WrestleMania 10 was so good leading up to the main event that Burt Reynolds was drunk before he got out for the main event.
Yeah, just a word to the wise to all you kids out there before WrestleMania 41. Maybe pace yourself with your drink and don't go full on Burt Reynolds.
This contest scheduled for one fall is our second World Wrestling Federation Championship match.
So there's our list of the underappreciated WrestleManias. Make sure you tell us in the comments below.
And keep it civil, people, because I'm not going to read any of your comments regardless, but I will delete them if I see fit to.
And I might block some of you.
Good job. And also, since we're here and we're such nice, kind guys, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to Special Guest Referee? If you enjoyed this video, share it with some other wrestling fans out there. Finally, thank you for watching this video. And when it comes to the Special Guest Referee, just remember,
Make sure you chop off those sleeves like Vince would tell you.